Good.
So as Ted talked about, actually Jesse referenced this as well. Ted was integral in bringing Success Beyond 6 to our agency, and that's the funding stream upon which we build all of our school partnerships. But it's actually larger than that. Not only was Ted the person that brought that to NCSS, he was actually, and I don't think a lot of people know this, he was the person that brought that to Vermont. So we're going to talk a lot about some of the services we have here that we offer in schools. And what people should remember is not only do we have those here, but every place in Vermont has access to these services, and that is because of Ted's leadership at the state of Vermont before he came here. So his career is even larger than what he did here, so I just wanted to mention that. So our school partnerships have been huge, and as Ted referenced, they've really exploded over the last several years. We're currently in 84% of schools. Out of the 291 staff we have in the Children's Division, 154 of those are in some way related to our school partnerships. I'm going to talk a little louder. Thank you. We served over 458 children last year, and we provided over 89,000 hours of care. That's an aggregate in all of our services. So how do we do that? One of the ways we do it is by providing therapists. We've embedded clinical services directly in our schools. And what that has done, as Ted referenced, people sometimes don't want to come into a mental health center to access services because of stigma. And what we've done is we brought services to them. We put clinical services right in the schools to give kids access when they might not have access to counseling. We offer homeschool coordination. And that's one thing that we feel is really important, that kids, to be successful in school, kids need to arrive at school ready to learn. And what the homeschool coordinators do is they help bridge the gap between home and school, and they might work with the families around challenges or struggles that the family might be having, and then they help them deal with those struggles so when kids do arrive to school, they're able to learn. We offer substance abuse treatment within schools. We currently have substance abuse counselors, and we just started our student assistant program, brand new. We just started that this year. We have our behavioral sports, which are two of our larger programs here at the agency, our school-based autism and our collaborative achievement team. And these programs are really designed to keep kids in the classroom. And then the last one I want to just talk about a little bit is, as Ted mentioned, it's alternative educational supports, and that's the SOAR Learning Center. It's the largest school, alternative school in the state of its kind. We served 94 students last year. Not only are we taking students from Franklin and Grand Isle County, but it's going so well and the services are such high quality that we're actually taking referrals from places in Chittenden County as well. So they're actually driving up here to access our services here at the SOAR Learning Center. And that's really important because before we had a program like SOAR, a lot of those kids got sent away to residential. They couldn't sleep in their own beds. So the quality of staff at SOAR is helping kids to stay in their own beds. It's keeping families together.
And building on the theme of integration is what Ted was referring to earlier, is the integration in primary care. And this is really driven a lot by healthcare reform. And what's happened is, across the country, is primary care providers have to go through, to get a higher rate of reimbursement, go through this standardized process where they have to score themselves, this NCQA scoring process, which really involves screening, measures, outcomes, and really a high level of accountability. And we've been able to, since about last several years, to really work with the primary care providers in our area to be that we're right now 100% of the patient-centered medical homes that are scored, we're involved in all of them right now. And it's an exciting time, and that's thanks also to Julie Parker and Dina Chase and their team, who really are really on the cutting edge of this stuff. Exciting about this model is there's really not even specific certification and training curriculums, and I just spent 2 days with them at a learning collaborative, and I said to them, I think a little bit of pushiness is a requirement in this position, isn't it? And they're like, yes, absolutely. You got to get right in there. And so what you see there are two pictures of our partnership. One is with the Federally Qualified Health Center with Ellen Williams up there. I hear you're really proud of that picture, Ellen. And the second is just one of the primary care practices, Cold Hollow up in Enosburg, family practice, which we have a really good working relationship with. But it just gives you a little cross-section of, that's medical staff, reception staff, medical assisted treatment, the buprenorphine for people with addictions, as well as our integrated behavioral health staff. And we're really in it together. We're part of the workflow. It's not a segregated model. It really is something that's pretty exciting with that. Related to that is one of the reasons for one of the rising healthcare costs is the high emergency department utilization, and our region has one of the higher ones in the Northeast. And we've really tried to partner with the Northwest Medical Center and others to say, what's that all about? And it's actually very complicated. There's multiple pathways to why people utilize the emergency department. It's not as simple as they don't have a primary care provider or they don't have a meaningful relationship. And we've really found some of the primary care providers really have been really trying heroic efforts to try to look at how can we make this work? How can we make this work better for the patients we serve? But Matthew Everett, I'm not sure if he's here tonight, has been playing a key role with us in terms of working with the emergency department. And everybody knows his name by email because he sends emails out for every time there's some kind of contact. This other thing, this is a new area that Ted had referred to, I think, a little bit about our cooperation integration with law enforcement. And this is one of those areas that's gotten a lot of media attention, and unfortunately you only hear the negative stories. And we know there's a lot of work to be done. We think law enforcement, and they recognize it themselves, can be interacting better with individuals with mental health difficulties in a different way, avoiding power struggles, being more kind, and trying to understand what's happening for someone. And we have two partnerships right now, one with the St. Albans City Police and one with the Vermont State Police. And it's interesting, you only hear the negative stories, but if I wish I could tell you some really interesting positive stories that have averted some really negative situations, particularly where law enforcement and even the FBI have said, this was a really good interaction for us. We prevented something from going south here. And it's really exciting. The only thing I noticed about this picture is it looks like our three staff look like mugshots. I think they're associating way too much with the law enforcement community. But it's an exciting area. And the last slide that I'm going to share is this whole concept of acuity. For those of you who aren't providers, this is a common term in the medical and mental health field, is acuity. And what I was looking at is like, well, what does acuity really mean? It means intensity. And one of the things that we're noticing that's happening more recently is all three service divisions are experiencing a lot more intensity. We are seeing much more severe situations for a variety of reasons, and some of it's statewide issues, some of it's local. But just to give you just a little bit of a sampling of it, the Children's Division, our region has a very high residential placement rate, and that triggers all kinds of things for those kids. One, trying to get the kids to come back into the community, and then what is it like when they come back into the community, and what does it mean for our services in the community, and how do we make meaningful models there? For developmental services, they're seeing more and more young adults in transition who have both intellectual disabilities as well as mental health difficulties who won't even engage in any kind of a meaningful treatment plan with us and pose serious challenges for their own safety and the community safety. And what do we do? Well, how are we going to work with that? And within the Behavioral Health Division, which overlaps with both the other divisions as well, is as much as we've developed, I think, a much stronger community-based system of care, good luck if you're trying to get somebody into a psychiatric hospitalization in this state. I mean, it's really not a good situation at all. It's the kind of thing that really deserves much more media. It's in the media, but our crisis team, our psychiatry staff, they deal with this every day, and we dread it. We dread it when somebody needs an inpatient psychiatric hospitalization. It's not a good situation. Related to that is, across the state, is our suicide rate is going up. And one of the sad facts is that most of the people who die by suicide, not just in Vermont, but certainly in Vermont, aren't even known to us. What's that about? Given how many people we serve, why is it that we're not seeing the people who really are most at risk of dying, who want to die by suicide? So that's something we collectively have to work together. That's why integration, collaboration is so important. And so those are the kinds of things that we're trying to relate. The other issue that we know, and then you see it in the media a lot, is the whole concept of what's happening with substance abuse in our communities, not just in Frank and Grand Island counties, but outside our area. We're not the designated substance abuse agency, although Children's is the preferred provider. We're recognizing we need to partner with those designated providers in a different kind of way. And this really gets into what our challenge is. How do we come up with more innovative models for service delivery?
So as Steve talked about with the clinical acuity, we often describe that as we have to have services that help the person that's calling today. But as Ted referenced with healthcare reform, we also have to get upstream. We have to find a way to help people today so they don't need to call tomorrow. And that's what some of these other items we're going to talk about are. that we've developed really innovative programming as a way to promote client care in ways that people might not think of as treatment. Just a couple examples of that are down at the SOAR Learning Center, we've developed ways to get kids integrated back into the community. They've done a lot of volunteer work on the Hard Act trails. They built bridges there, they cleaned trails, they volunteered at several towns in the community departments, painting, doing maintenance work. And we don't often think of that as treatment, but it really is a way to get kids connected to the community, and we think we can promote their wellness long term. Positive behavior supports is something that we do in schools, and that's a type of service delivery that looks at the